We're on again, two in a row. We're on a streak. How are we doing, everyone? Hope you're having a good afternoon. Haven't had too much rain. We're going to have a chat today with Shivana about specialising pathways. I'm sure some of you know her. She is a prosthodontist. So we're not just going to be talking about pros, though. She's got a good idea about lots of other pathways. So it should be... See, she's on already, so hopefully we can join her in pretty quick. Straight in, look at that.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just happy it all launched properly again.
Did you have issues before? Is that what happened?
Yeah, two ago, it just wouldn't let me launch one. I got banned from doing lives. It was an absolute nightmare. Yeah, no ideal. How you doing?
Is that Instagram's way of saying like no more lives?
Instagram's way of saying you've rearranged too many into June. 5 is too many. Calm down.
It's summer. Oh my God, it's so hot today, honestly, on clinic.
So you're still clinic is in work clinic because you've finished it, guys, now, right?
No, I'm still at guys until September. So we have to finish our cases, and we don't actually graduate until September. I've just done my exams.
The hard bit, get the hard bit done.
There's like this weird summer situation from exams to finish.
Okay.
So yeah.
I thought you'd been chilling for 2 weeks since the exams were done.
I wish. I wish. I think it was like a whirlwind, because as soon as we finished on the Monday or something afterwards, we just got bombarded with emails like, okay, guys, come back. Let's do your cases. Let's finish your cases. And and we were like, okay, great. You've given us a weekend and now we have to finish everything off. So, I mean, it was a bit of a whirlwind, but I'm glad that we've got this time because of last year, right? We missed a lot of clinic, and it's just nice to be able to be back and like have that like conclusion to the training.
Yeah,
but how
definitely.
are you?
I'm good. Yeah. Day off today, so just getting ready for
nice.
this evening. Yeah, making sure I know all about specialising. Obviously, we're going to have a little chat about mainly pros because that's what you've done, but obviously lots of other bits. But for anyone who doesn't know who you are, can you just give us a quick little intro about yourself and why we're chatting?
Of course. So I'm Shivana. I did my undergrad at King's College London. I did my dental foundation and I did DCT as well. DFT was amazing. I did it in the Oxfordshire Deanery, Buck scheme, really, really fun year, really enjoyed it. And then I went on to do my core training at the Eastman, which is honestly the most eye-opening, amazing experience I've ever done in my life. It included 2 months at Great Ormond Street, which was my favourite rotation. And what then
post did you do?
It was oral surgery and maximise post, but it's just really well done in terms of the logistics of it. You do 4 months of maximise at UCH, and then you do 4 months of oral surgery at the Eastman, and then you kind of split the last 4 months across orthodontic and then peds at Great Ormond Street and craniofacial. So yeah, it was just a really nicely set out year, and you got an idea of like really high end maximise and that remit. It's actually where I really wanted to do restorative. I fell in love with wanting to be a restorative consultant there, because I ended up being an SHO at Great Ormond Street kind of for both, because he didn't have an SHO at the time. And I just really enjoyed it, and that kind of sparked my interest more and more into restorative. So I went back to practice afterwards, amazing practice, like family vibes, which was really nice. And then I applied for pros quite early on, actually. One of my mentors, he's a pros and oral surgeon, and he was like, I have no idea about the application process, and I can't guide you anymore because it's so past my time. Shiv, just put your name in the hat. Let's just figure out what the process is. And then, and then you can reapply when you're a bit older. So I was like, yeah, for sure. Let's just do it. You have to, it's a bit admin, like you have to search on where you're applying, what you're doing. You don't know. So I did that. And then I got a call back for an interview, and I was like, what is going on? So I was like, okay, let me go to the interview. Did my interview. It was really intense, but nice experience. I was like, I've definitely not got it. Like, they were asking such hard questions. I don't know anything. And then and then they were like, do you want to start in September? I was like, okay, great.
Well, to be fair, that's a bit like mine. That's why almost selfishly I've got you on, because my mentor, prosthodontist, Eastman, ages ago, obviously everything's changed, all of it changed. So I'm thinking of the exact same thing, throwing an application in January, and when when you really want to do it, you'll know better. But
Yeah, no,
we're going to get all the
exactly.
top tips today, aren't we? So
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's exactly it. It does. There is a fee. So when you come to this stage of training, you have to. It's like 50 quid, I think, or something like that. But I mean, for me, I had no idea, and I feel like as soon as I did that application process, and now that I'm obviously nearly finishing pros, I know that process, and I can actively talk about it. I mean, this is the first time I'm doing a solely specialization DFT DCT one, but I've spoken about it to so many young dentists, and it just makes it so much easier when our mentors don't really know yet, and they're like 15-20 years in the game, and we're like, what do we do? So I think it's really useful to have people like yourself or myself just be like, okay, this is where you go, this is the link, click here, do this. Otherwise you miss the boat, and you don't even realize that opportunity's there and exists.
Yeah, no, definitely, because it's things like, as well, suddenly it's a January application and everything else has been a September application, and
Exactly. Yeah,
throws you off,
exactly.
or DCT and DFT is in May, or whatever it is, and so it all just comes around
Yeah,
different times. You mentioned
exactly.
about restorative then.
Yeah.
So why do you go for pros?
So I went back into practice. There was actually an academic restorative job that came up at Barts, and I applied for that. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for me. So restorative is 6 years, first of all, so that's a big commitment. Also, there are far and few in between posts, so they only probably take an intake of like 4 to 5 in the country per year. And yeah, you just have to be very committed to being able to be in the hospital environment for that period of time. I actually didn't get that post because there
Oh,
was
so you did apply.
yeah, I
You did
applied.
apply.
I went for an interview and everything, and I didn't get that post. But I think there was someone who was at Royal London at the time, or Barts, who was like lined up to do it. But it was a really good experience for me because, like you just said, as soon as you get the interview for something, or you get through the application process, it makes you know whether you want to do it or not. So I did it, and I walked out being like, I don't mind if I don't get it, like that. And usually when I go for any interviews, or if I go for anything in my career, I like am desperate to get. I'm like, can't wait for my results, can't wait to know. I want it. Whereas with this, I walked out being like, good experience, happy for someone else to get it who actually really wants it and deserves it. And then I was in practice at the time anyways, and then I started looking at pros, mainly because of my mentor. So he's a pros oral surgeon. So I was looking into that more so than anything, and looking at different options. So MSEs, MClinDents, like distance learning, full-time specialty training.
You're just going through the entire of what we're going to chat through, really.
Oh, sorry.
That's like
Exactly.
go.
Yeah, so I know exactly. So I think that's why I'm a good person to speak to, because I've done that due diligence. I've gone through the research of what's out there, what the difference is between things. I don't know. I think, like I said to you earlier, a mixture of let me put my name in the sorting hat and see what happens, and then a mixture of wanting to do it properly. I know that sounds like me being maybe a tad like egotistical. That's not what I mean. Just, I know myself really well, and I know that if I did 3 years or 4 years in anything, MSE, MClinDent, distance learning, not, I want that something at the end, like that achievement of like, oh wow, like I could potentially become a specialist with this, or I am now a specialist in this. So for me, it was just maybe saying, I'm quite young, I don't have any huge commitments in terms of like loads of mortgages or practice or anything like that. Let me just go for it and do it once, do it properly. And it has been an absolutely huge commitment. I think I thought the difference between restorative and pros was going to be the commitment factor, but I had no idea that
It was too late at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So now, knowing it was such a commitment, do you wish you'd done restorative? If that was what put you off initially?
Yeah. So yeah, no, you're right. If I had it in me to do like applications for a few years, so with pros I got in straight away. So I didn't have to compete every year in a really highly competitive field to apply every year. So I think for me, if I had I'd got into restorative or something like that early on, I think I would have done it. But because I know that it would have taken me applying the following year and the following year like that, I don't know if that would have been the case then. I think, you know, because by the third year or something you're doing it, you're thinking, oh, by now I could have actually qualified in something else. Yeah, so for me, I think that was the factors that played a part.
Yeah. So you've mentioned already there MSc, MClin. So obviously I know a lot of people do MSc Endo, even like MSc Restorative. I know lots of people do the Eastman one because it's sort of I think that's 3 years, and it's and you're never going to be specialist list with the MSc. It's special interest and that kind of stuff. So, you know, is there pros MSc? You know, what's the sort of environment of that?
Yeah, so the Eastman have a really great range of MScs, genuinely, and also something I want to add from what I said earlier about like doing it properly, I guess, is also you at that stage you don't know what you're about to embark in. You read it on a website to say this is what it includes, but you don't actually do it to know how much hands-on experience you get, what kind of theoretical knowledge you're delivered, how much one-on-one teaching you get, those kind of things. But I've heard really amazing things about the restorative MSc, also the MSc in aesthetic dentistry as well, which is at the Eastman, and also the endo MSc as well at the Eastman as well. They're all very prestigious pathways because they're really well taught. You've got a lot of knowledge and experience in terms of like who's teaching you, you know, at the Eastman. And I think a lot of the clinicians that have come out of there, I won't name names, but we know half of them that have done this MSc are amazing, like absolutely incredible clinicians who got to actually do the MSc part-time and be in practice. So you're then growing your practice at the same time, which I think is absolutely invaluable. And something that as pro specialists, I don't know if we get that same, you can't do that as well because you're there for 3 days a week for perio, pros or endo. So therefore you're in practice 2 days a week, but actually like every year there's something. So you've got a research project, or you've got your final exams, or you've got lab work to do. So a lot of us actually only work 1 day a week or 1.5 days a week or something like that. So you only have that 1 day to utilize the skills. Most of our skills are being executed at Guy's on clinic there, if that makes sense. So
well, speaking of Guys, Costas has just turned up, so he missed that bit where you were rating all of the best tutors and how Speaking of Costas, guys, he's got a space that's just come up for his course on the weekend. So if you enjoyed our one about injection molding, send Costas a message. He's got a place for you on Saturday.
Yeah, it's awesome. Honestly, I've done his. Have
you had the preview? Have you?
I've had the like non-GC version.
Does he talk about other composites?
No, he actually doesn't. That's the thing.
That's
He's
good.
Obsessed. Yeah.
We've got Ricky here as well. So all the guys that are turning up today.
Yeah.
So then we've said distance and intensive as well. Now I've heard, particularly because I've looked mainly into the pros, but I've heard particularly the distance pros MClin specialist list is an issue. Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, to become a specialist in anything, you have to do at least 10,000 hours. So the MClinDent intensive, which is 3 days a week at Guy's, you are then enrolled on a conjoined exam with the Royal College of Surgeons. So your MRD and your MPros and your MClinDent are done together. Obviously, there's a few extra things you do for MClinDent that kind of happens year on year, but that this week that we did a few weeks ago is conjoined, and Cardiff offer it, Eastman offer it, Eastman, Barts, and we offer it as well. And that's so key because you then you get to apply to be on the specialist register. If you are not doing the intensive course and you don't basically rack up those hours, you may not be eligible to sit the MRD. And then that's the issue. So you then potentially have to go back and practice, and then you could do it later on, but it's really hard then to get anyone to sign you off. So you're not really eligible basically to do that. But I know that there are a few dentists that did it who are really like amazing clinicians who have then applied like years on to do it. And were able to get on the list, but I'm not sure how much of that is happening now.
Someone's got to sign you off essentially, and
there's exactly, and there's too many specialists now on the register. So what they've done is they have when I started pros, I was given a specialist number. So I was like, this is your, kind of like at the beginning of DFT, where you're given a performer number, but it's not active yet. So I was given my number to say, if you get through and you pass, then this is your specialist number. Whereas now they're not giving that. So you don't get your NTN at the beginning. You can still do the conjoined exam for the MRD, but then you have to apply to the GDC afterwards to get your specialty number, your NTN, and be on the register. So it's becoming a little bit more competitive and intense as the years go on. But I mean, there's always hoops to climb through. There's things always change, and the degree I did was incredible, and it was really, really worthwhile. And I'm glad I'm coming to the end, but I'm glad I did it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we've touched on the application as well. There's that deposit, 50 quid or 70 quid or whatever it is that you put down. For the King's one, what did the application involve, or if you know what it currently involves, how does it work?
So you basically apply. So when I did it, it was national recruitment, but you basically apply now through to the university of your choice. So you do a personal statement to King's or to Barts or to Cardiff, whatever. Then you go to an interview, it's 3 stations usually. So for me, it was 3 stations. One of them was just if you know what PROS actually is. So there's a handbook, which is the gold guide, and it tells you everything to do with the curriculum about endo, pros, perio, ortho, everything. So they want to just make sure you've read that. So they ask you really strategic questions about that, to the point where they're like, do you know how many pages it is? To check that you've read it.
What's on page 8?
Yeah. And also the fun one for pros is that on our curriculum, it states that we don't need to know how to place implants, but we need to be competent in restoring any type of implant, like full arch bridges, singles, whatever. And they asked me that as well. So do you think you'll be competent in surgical pros, like by the end of it, like placing implants? And I was like, no, but I should be competent in, like, so you basically show that you've read it. The second station is a bit of a clinical governance audit, papers, journals one. I remember them asking me like what recent journal I'd read. And I mean, at this point I was in practice. So the only things that used to come through was Dentistry Mag or like, Young Dentists, and like nothing peer reviewed as such. So it just again shows whether you are naturally an academic person and you're willing to look into the literature, and do you do that for fun anyways. So it was that, and then there was another section, and it was just a clinical scenario. So I think it was 2 clinical scenarios actually, and you just had to write like 1-word answers on a piece of paper about something. So yeah, I mean, it was like that when I did it. I know now they don't do it as much like that. It's more kind of interview based, and some universities do it different to others, but when I did it, that's what it was like. And I think there was also a portfolio that we had to do and show them as well. So I mean, it's quite a comprehensive interview. So, and you don't know what to expect because there's no predecessors to kind of show you and teach you. So yeah, that was the interview process. And then once you get invited to join, you just start in September. I remember telling my boss, like, hey, I know I've just asked for 5 days a week, but I need to go back to 2. And he was like, Shivana. I was like, yeah, I'm starting pros in like 2 months. It was like, okay.
Just by the way.
Yeah. So it's because it's a life change, and it's tricky to like logistically sort out everything that's going on. But yeah.
So that's for now. It's universities, and that's you can do perio, endo, pros through universities, apply to individual ones. Some of them are still national recruitment only. Ortho.
Yeah. So basically, I hate calling it this, but mono specialities were created from restorative, because people were doing restorative, dropping out after the 3rd year and taking endo or taking perio. So I think they just wanted to, make that just restorative base. So I actually paid tuition fees. I'm there as like a postgraduate student, whereas peds, ortho, like special care, those kind of ones, they are done by national recruitment. So you do your DCT 1 to whatever's recommended for that specialty in the specific subject. So like, peds, you need to do a year of peds or 6 months of ortho. That it's a requirement on their national recruitment. Whereas oral surgery, you need to have like a year of oral surgery or a year of max fax. and then you apply. That's national recruitment, so you then apply for a national interview, and then same thing, like you either have to rank or you have to like write down where you want to go first and that kind of thing, and then you hopefully get a position to do oral surgery or peds. They're all full-time, so all of that pathway is all full-time. So restorative peds, oral surgery is all full-time, and you get a salary from the trust. So you're basically getting your training, but you also get paid to see the patients, do for the service work for the trust. And so it's a bit different to me, where I'm a university student learning a trade, like when I did my undergrad.
And there is still fees for the national recruitment places though. There is still like fees, because my girlfriend wants to do ortho, and it's very much like Birmingham is this much and this is and it's sort of it's basically they're going to pay you and then you just give it it straight back to them, which is a bit weird. No,
I know what you mean. So yeah, exactly. There's still there's still ties associated with your training, but because you're also, I guess, because you're also being paid or funded to be there, it basically reduces down. But
yeah, it's not the same as what the MClinDent guys puts you back. I know that much, because that's especially if you're only going to be able to work 1 day a week. It's not that's not a lot of fun, is it?
Yeah, I mean, that's like the climate now. I'm assuming years ago it would have been different. I know some of the guys used to work like 2 days plus a Saturday and then an evening clinic. So I mean, it's just depending on what cohort you're in. So the cohort I'm in is like that, but I'm pretty sure it would have changed generation to generation in terms of like life,
So then you sort of said about, for national recruitment anyway, DFT and DCT, obviously those things are important. Although you got to do max vax and peds and all that kind of stuff. For these separate applying to unis, obviously you've got to do DFT, but you did DCT. Do you think that helped your application? Did it help you in general? I haven't done DCT, so don't say that you need to.
So you don't need core training to do the mono specs. So you don't actually need to do it, but you need 2 years of experience to be able to apply. So you need to have worked and practiced then for a year. I think from a personal, professional development point of view, it was invaluable. Like, I had an absolutely amazing experience, and I know that can differ across different, cohorts and things like that, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I got a lot out of it as well, in terms of like my own personal growth. And I think that's really, really important. So some people can come out of university, be super confident and like ready to go and do all of this stuff, whereas for me, I really wanted, I'm quite like the person that's kind of good at everything, if that makes sense. So you know how someone has like, I'm amazing at this one thing, I was like always across the board. So that really, really helped me with my breadth. So it helped me with my breadth of like, I've done DFT. That's made me really efficient. I'm good at practice. I understand, the team in the practice situation. I know how to treat my patients. I know every type of like procedure. And then when I went to hospital, it made me super, super confident, clinically confident. That's what I mean. Of, you're suturing, you're raising flaps, you're taking out teeth, you're sectioning things, and like medically compromised patients. So I got to then merge my sympathy, empathy, my communication with like, actually, I can handle the soft tissues, the hard tissues. Whatever comes through the door, I'll feel okay, like I can do something about. And I think that was really invaluable for me personally. And then I've taken that on, in my dental career. I've taken that on in pros, and it's been very useful. One thing that is really funny, that is always recommended for all of these things, is MJDF and MFDS.
I was just about to ask.
It's beyond me, but it's a necessity when you're applying for any specialty training or further education, because I think it just shows that you are committed to like taking exams, that you're happy to do postgraduate examinations. And
this is Ricky's favorite point. He was harassing me for not doing MJDF yet.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I mean, it's something that it's like a tick box that you need to do. see how you get
It's the
along.
same with the national recruitments for the author and whatever. It's, have you done that? It's
Exactly. It's
2 years, 4 years, 5 years experience. It's all that same.
Exactly. It's just ticking those boxes, and then because you don't want to apply and then not have one of the tick boxes and then get rejected because of something stupid, like, oh, I should have done it next year and not this year, or otherwise you feel disheartened. So if you can just make sure you fill the criteria and tick box the criteria, then that's the main thing. And that's like, then at least you've got a good fighting chance of getting in, because that's half the battle. To being invited for an interview. So have you done MFDS, or are you going to do it?
I've clearly now I'm going to do it. So no, it's
me and Ricky bully you into doing it.
Ricky went
£1,000
in. Ricky went in. £1,000 exam, and then do you have to keep it up for like a million years whilst you're doing it?
Yeah,
one of
really
those ones, is it? Yeah. You have the letters on your plaque at the practice. It's on the business card.
Honestly.
Any other sort of things that you can recommend? Is there courses? Is there, what do you think they're going to look at?
I think that so you mean for specialty training, or yeah. So I think first and foremost, any further education you do, whether it's specialty training or an MSc, is like, dentistry is always a lifelong learning profession. So if you're going to up your game, first and foremost, you're going to have to keep it there. So I mean, I think Ricky's already gone on like 4 different courses since graduating. so you have to carry on afterwards, keeping up your skill. We've actually done courses on the course as well. So I've gone to the tubules conference, and we did it was a perio surgical workshop. So we didn't choose pros, which was really great, because it keeps your eye open to other things. I've obviously done Minish's course, which is the photography one, because you can't not know what you're doing when you're doing amazing cases. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to share any of our guys' cases on social media, because they're not our patients, they're the trust patients, but I do feel like they are my patients. So that's going to be a great tool for me back in practice to be able to hone in on as well. When I graduated out of core training, I did a lot of aesthetic composite courses as well. So I did mini smile makeover, I did Monix course, I did a facial aesthetics course as well. I was really into that, because I love like looking at people's faces and symmetry. I'm like I'm still a girly girl. Like I'm a prosthodontist, but I'm also I like doing that kind of thing as well, which is nice. So those are the main ones I went to. I know that there are so many out there, and it would be unfair for me to say, go on this one and do that one if I didn't go on it myself. So those are the ones I did and I enjoyed. So yeah.
And then other things that they look at, because I know, as I said, we've been going through it this year about the author application, but it's audits, it's publications, speakings. Are those things as important?
So yes, they are important. Audits, naturally, if
not as important as the MFDS, but
Ricky's still watching.
Oh, sorry, Ricky.
So I think audits you'll do anyways in foundation training, because it's compulsory for the year, and then it's the same in core training as well. So you automatically pick up 2 from that. You just have to be proactive. If you're not going to do core training, just be proactive in the practice and do something, because then at least that gives you 2 tick boxes for the audit category. In terms of publications, I had actually only I published a book, so put that to one side. I just remembered. So I put that to one side.
Oh, I did that, didn't I? Yeah.
I was about to say it, and I knew someone would say, Shiv, like you were an author, so I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways, so I'd done that, so I'd put that on there, but I'd only done maybe 1 or 2 publications in a peer review journal. I'd done a lot on peer reviewed, so like commercial magazines and blogs and stuff like that, but I put everything down, because like, why not?
Paints the picture, doesn't it?
Well, at that point I'd only been nearly 3 years qualified by the time I started, but 2 years at that point. So it's unrealistic for me to have been able to do heaps and heaps. So I put down the 2 that I had, and I put down the book, and I put down a few other extra ones that I did commercially that were to do with pros. So I wrote those ones down, which was good. I wrote down that I'd done the MJDF as well, part 1, part 2, and then also they'd asked for like further commitments, or there's something like extracurricular, like further commitments and anything you've done like
to
that.
the specialty.
So, and I spoke about charity, because I'd done, I'd been part of the Dental Wellness Trust and Heart Your Smile, so I wrote about that as well. But it's really, the application is like, it's really small sections. You can't really go off on one about specific things. It's more like we were saying earlier, a tick box exercise to make sure that you're well-rounded enough to be able to take on the commitment that's about to happen. So those are the main ones that you have to write on the application form, plus your personal statement, obviously, plus your references and all of that things as well.
Well, I mean, I think, the other thing that you wanted then was sort of, is it after specializing or during, practice versus like practical academia? Because I know like Finlay Sutton is a PhD rather than an MClin. So what's that pathway? Do you know that?
Yeah. So with specialty training, you're obviously in the hospital. So your life is very much there. And this is something I didn't realize because I was really, I think I was quite commercial beforehand, just by nature of like doing the courses and like being with young dentists and being like being a bit of a like role on social media. So for me, when I started, it became extremely academic in terms of like, where's your evidence base? What theory is behind this? Learning about other prosthodontics that have paved the way for us. So you do have this sense of like appreciation for everything we get taught, and that there are people out there really doing research into what we're doing and making sure we're doing the best thing possible. So my thought in terms of academia and commercial is just making sure that you're doing the right thing. So even if you do want to have a portfolio online, or you've got an amazing practice and so on and so forth, just ensuring that you keep up your skill and your theory, and then having that nice blend. Otherwise, I feel like you end up either just really bogged down with research and academia and then forget about picking up a handpiece, or you are so into your workflow and everything that you're trying so many different things and new things that you don't really know the longevity of it. Especially young dentists, you don't know the longevity in your hands, and you're trying something because you've seen your friend do it or someone big on social media do it, and you're like, oh, I saw Rupert's like amazing dentures and I want to have curvy teeth like that and all of this stuff. And then you're like, well, wait a second, like just double check that, you're in DFT or something, like double check the theory behind it. So I think for me, it's just an important message that I've always said from the beginning of Pros is if I do it, I'm not going to lose sight of the fact that I'm still a clinician, and I'm going to make sure that the theory and the clinician of me matches together and I don't become one or the other, because I think that's a really dangerous game to play. So I think that's just me, like my own ethos, and something I wanted to bring to the show.
No, I think definitely, because that was always our like running joke in practice, was that you'd refer from the NHS practice like into Eastman, and they'd send back going, wear case, and they go, yeah, cracking. I recommend 20 gold crowns.
Yeah.
Off you go, and you're like, band 3. It's like, yeah, great. It's like, I could have told you that, but it's like that was always the running joke.
Yeah, no, exactly. I completely get it. It's like just having, I think for me, I really want to be that liaison or that communication between primary and secondary care, and just being able to remember both and not go too far into one, because I think that can be a bit dangerous.
Sappy99 said, also good to join society, showing commitment, attend conferences, join the BSSP. Is it BSS?
That's with Harriet, yeah. So BSP or BSRD is restorative, and then
there's also I lose it. There's also BR. I don't know. It's too many.
Also, yeah.
It's BPS and BS. I don't know. Join them. Just join them and go.
Yeah, I think it's more because there are really good societies and associations. So when we were talking about audits or publications, actually, it's a really good point, because posters or writing like a review about another book or about something, is classified as a publication as well. So then you can basically say I presented a poster, or I talked at a national conference, or I even presented something at a local meeting. So when we do presentations for each other in Pros, like that's a local meeting. So you can always say, oh, I did a presentation in, I don't know, Carey's or something, and then you can pop that down on your application. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, Ricky says the BSSSSSSPD. Now, obviously, you've brought up the book. You've mentioned the book, so I know we'll probably have some more students people on. DFT DCT. We get into the anagrams.
Yeah.
DTC, dental training consultant.
No,
So do you
it's
do
just
that for specialty training?
no. It was just really funny because earlier I got an email. We've been partners with Dental Protection for years, like 7 years now. Yeah, they're honestly amazing. And then it was like we're like speaking to a new person, and she was like, "I'm just so confused. Like DTC, DCT, DFT. Like, what's going on?" I was like, "I know, it's really confusing." Yeah, no, look, Rupert, it's amazing. I'm really, really privileged and proud to like help young dentists, and I take it really seriously as well. Like, I don't want people to look up to me and then I'm doing stupid stuff or not taking it seriously. So I think for me, more than the courses or the books or like whatever, it's just firstly the team, like the squad is like a family to me. And secondly, it's just helping young dentists, because I just remember coming out and feeling a bit lost and not having a group to look to. Like we were talking about earlier, our mentors are like in their 50s or 60s. And I love what we do. We had to handle the pandemic last year in terms of the like national recruitment staff. And we're not here to like compete or misguide anyone or anything like that. We're genuinely here to help. So we take as much advice now from them that they do from us, like in terms of students. We're in like loads of WhatsApp groups with them. And it's a really nice place to be in comparison to 6 years ago when we came out and there was like no practice, no books, no help. And I was looking at my doctor friends, my medical friends, like you've got thousands of SJT books and courses, and like, you know, your colleges are actually running courses for you for the exam. And now we get to do that. And I think that's really fantastic. And like, you know, there are a few students and kids that came to our course out are also doing it to help, which I think is fantastic. Like it just means that there's people there to support. Especially now this week, they're all preferencing. They just got their ranks yesterday. So I'm like getting through the emails and messages, making sure everyone's okay. One of the guys who ranked first in the country was one of our delegates. So just need to reach out to him and say like, bloody hell, well done. Like smashed it. So yeah, it's just cool. It's something I think in 10 years time, we'll look back on, like me and Zahid, and just be like, wow, I can't believe we did that. That was really cool. That's it. No more, no less. I'm not just going to sit here and sell a course. Like is genuinely us. And I hope it lasts forever. I don't think it will, but I hope it does. Like, you know, it's nice. We're like a family, genuinely. It's a family.
So with it, you're covering obviously DFT, DTT.
Yep.
Have you taken the next step, international recruitment stuff yet?
So no, so it was actually like a joke on a train journey once. I think Ricky was there as well. It was like Ricky, Abdi, Nat, me, Sandy. I can't remember who else was there. But we were just like, Abdi and Ricky were revising for their interviews for specialty ortho and pros. And then we were like, took a photo of them because we were about to run the course for core training and they're both speakers. And in between the breaks, I kid you not, they're revising because it's one of the hardest things they're going to do in their life, and they've come to because they love it, don't they? So they've come to teach, and then they were just sitting like next to each other. You probably see on our social media them two sitting next to each other like writing. So I took a picture and I like posted it being like, so you guys want to become a specialist, like this is what it really is. And then it just like from there we always joke around to say who's doing so you want to become a specialist course, like when is it happening? Nothing yet. I know Nat really is passionate about it, Natalie Bradley. Something we'd love to do. It's just a bit of a tricky time at the moment with all of the changes because of the pandemic. So,
well, yeah, you mentioned it for last year's DFT lot. You know, it was very much a sort of, because that was, you know, March, April, suddenly going, right, you're not going to come to the, you know, St. James's Park or what, you know, whatever it was, like the local centres. It's going to be this, it's going to be online. Can't do communication properly anymore. That must have been quite tricky.
Yeah.
Trying to work out what was going to happen.
Firstly, no one knew until really late, which was a massive issue. So we just changed, and then they just did SJTs. So we like between us all, like panels for SJTs take ages. You need like 10 of you to do it, check it, like show it to a lay person. It's really hard, but we managed to get like a massive bank, and then we ran the course virtually. So we did it online, which was crazy because we've never done that before. We also teach Peninsula. So we did Peninsula first online, and they weren't like, this was like May or June. Like no one was used to being on Teams or Zoom or Instagram Lives and stuff. I remember one kid messaging me like, I had a migraine at the end, and I was like, no, I'm so sorry. Because it's intense, like the course is intense, and we don't hold back. We're like, guys, this is going to be a long day. But now I think that because we have done it online and we've been able to reach so many more people. So we used to teach at London, Birmingham, Manchester, Bristol. We did Newcastle once in Leeds as well. We used to get people from Valencia fly over and like come and attend the course, or Bulgaria. And now they can all come, like with no qualms. And I think that's beautiful, because it just means that, you know, you can reach more people. So we do DFT. That's just one course that's going to be in end of September, beginning of October. And then core training is with Priya and Jay, who basically run that, who came to us a few years ago and were like, we need to do core training. So they're like, that's their baby. And that's in March time the following year. So we just finished that a few months ago, a few months back. So so that's where we're at the moment. And we do other stuff as well. We work with a lot of companies, with young dentists, which is lovely, like advising them on like, please don't sell to them, like just genuinely talk to them and teach them stuff. And stuff like that. Now I'm getting DFT questions.
There we go, Q&A. So is the DFT course going to include comms? So I'm assuming this is saying for September.
Yeah. So they announced on a webinar earlier on in the week that this year, so we're like in that grey phase of COVID, aren't we? So they're going to do SJTs as normal. And then instead of doing professionalism, leadership management and comms with an actor, they're going to do a comms-based station. So there's not going to be an actor.
Theory of communication? Like, it's a bit weird, isn't it? What does that even mean?
I know. So we're going to do stuff on that. So we're going to cover it on our course, but we're actually going to try and do something like a module on our members page as well. So because comms, you need to practice. Like, I can't just talk to you for an hour and be like, communication done. So we're going to do something that's tangible, that they can like sustain over the time. But it literally got released 2 days ago, so we're working on it this week in terms of what's the
frantically sorting it out.
Well, no, actually quite calmly, weirdly enough. Like, me and Zayed are like, what do you think? I think this. And also, we know so many young dentists, and we're just doing a lot of market research just to make sure it's exactly what they need. That's what we always do. We always put ourselves like in the mind of that year group. Otherwise, we're doing it for ourselves rather than doing it for them.
I think this year group now, the ones who've just found out actually now probably, they've had the fourth and fifth year gone. Like, that's just mental. It's gonna be tough, isn't it? It's gonna be tough.
And they're gonna, I hate to say it, but they're probably gonna have bits of it when they're going to practice as well in September, because it's not like we've got variants still. Things in the world aren't ready to rock and roll. And I know a lot of my friends who work in pilot practices or like community practices are still just triaging on the phone. Yeah. So
you should get a communication section whilst wearing FFP3s, because that's the reality, isn't it?
That would actually be the test of communication.
That's pretty. Yeah, that's your teeth. on Zoom with an FFP3 on.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think we've covered it all there. Is there anything else that you want to go? Is there anyone who's got any questions? All about DFT courses.
This is about specialty training. This is Rupert's Day, not about DFT courses.
No, this is top tips for MFDS. I'm going to write them down.
Oh my God. I did MJDF actually. I couldn't do
which one's better? Which one's better?
There's no difference.
So why is there two? When are you moving to Cheltenham, Imi says?
Yeah,
Interesting.
Imi is like my mentor crush. You know, like when you like stalk someone on Instagram so much, you're like, oh my God, they're amazing. And he was looking for a GDP to work for him. So I was like,
I thought we were getting an exclusive.
Why not a junior pros? And then he was like, will you move to Cheltenham? I was like, yes.
There we go, Imi. There we go. Sorted.
No, he's amazing. He's an amazing clinician. Like implants, absolutely. I love implants. I love restoring implants. I'm not like a surgical, like I don't like placing implants, but I love restoring, and like you'd love it as well, because it's basically dentures, but just
basically.
But just
that's the thing. Like, I've
cut off everything else.
Yeah.
The same steps. It's the same steps, isn't it? So.
But that interesting. That's a lecture that I'm giving next week about making implant retained dentures, and just forget about the implants for a bit, and then.
Yeah, exactly.
Imi says he's looking forward to you joining the practice.
No,
That
I'm
is it's
joking.
definitely. I want to get into the implant side of it, and that's where the MClin be great. Not doing the surgical bit.
Yeah.
Although Imi, when he did our live a few weeks ago, made it look pretty ace, to be fair.
Yeah.
Uh, this has been ace. I don't think we've got any more questions left. And oh,
Yeah.
here we go. Here we go. What do you think will happen long term for future trainees with COVID? Future trainees in what, Ricky? Specifics.
Yeah.
DFT, DCT.
He
I
was
think
he
we're
was
gonna have
actually
restrictions for a while though. We're
he
gonna
was
have PP and
actually
stuff.
they were class of COVID. They genuinely were, because it
Mm.
happened last March. So they were just finished in March, and then they
What,
did
what
their exams in September.
what rooms were you using at guys? Have you guys been in the side rooms? Because it's all open bay, isn't it?
It was. So we were using, yeah, side rooms to do
Yeah.
AGPs, and then now they've re-ventilated the entire hospital. So now we're using, yeah. So we've got the electrics and on in open plan now.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
There we go. So yeah, what do you think will happen long term for future trainees with COVID?
I've
We
answered
just
it.
we just ignore Ricky. We just ignore Ricky. Perfect. Oh, cheers for coming on. And
My
I thought you'd had
absolute.
a lovely 2 weeks off, and I was going to say enjoy the rest of your summer off and whatever.
I wish I'll have a lovely 2 weeks off in the end of September.
Perfect. After all the courses and stuff. Perfect. Well, cheers again for coming on,
Thank
and
you so much,
I'll
Rupert.
catch you around when I've got to apply for MFDS and stuff.
Yes, please. See ya.
Cheers.